What exactly caused groups of nomadic hunting and gathering populations of humans to settle down in one location and start farming in order to subsist? This is one of archaeology's oldest questions because it happened independently in several locations around the world. The simple answer is control over your food source, but there are drawbacks to it also. The diversity of your diet would almost certainly be reduced, leading to nutritional deficiencies. You would have to invest time and energy in the land, and crops aren't guaranteed to grow, especially if the land is stressed or the soil is exhausted. Denser populations meant an increase in disease as you live closer to animals, waste, and pollution, increased fighting and conflict over land and crop surplus, ownership issues leading to unequal class divisions. So why do it? Well, some people suggest that the move to an agrarian lifestyle wasn't just based solely on food, but also on the promise of creating alcohol from some of those grains that were produced. Fermented beverages have been a centerpiece of virtually every civilization, whether ancient or modern. Some of the oldest known alcohol in the world was made in China around 7,000 years ago by fermenting a mix of rice, fruit, and honey in clay pots. But alcohol production almost certainly predates that time and extends much further also. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians were thought to have used up to 40% of their barley harvest specifically to make beer. The Egyptians were known to have produced up to 24 different types of wine and 17 types of beer. The Greeks and the Romans even had gods devoted to alcohol. Across the world in Mesoamerica, agave-based alcohol was made. Throughout history and into the modern era, people have consistently produced and consumed alcohol. Now, the type of alcohol that we're talking about is ethyl alcohol, or ethanol. DNA evidence suggests that humans developed the ability to metabolize and break down its toxic components as far back as 10 million years ago, which is even before the time that humans and chimps diverged from one another into different species. This was most likely an adaptation that allowed our early primate ancestors to eat fruit that was beginning to spoil or ferment without them getting sick. But once those ancient humans figured out how that spoiled fruit made them feel, they began recreating it. People would traditionally put fruit and grains in covered containers, and after some time, the liquid inside would be alcoholic. Back then, nobody knew why this happened. It was just a divine gift. But thankfully today, we understand the metabolic process involved. Fermentation is a cellular process that certain organisms, like bacteria or yeast, use to create energy without the help of oxygen, or anaerobically. It begins with an energy source, like sugar, shown here in the form of glucose. To convert that energy into a usable form, a cell needs to break this molecule down, using a process called glycolysis, which produces two molecules of pyruvate. These are modified further by removing part of the molecule in the form of carbon dioxide, which is the reason why alcohol fermentation produces bubbles. This results in molecules of acetaldehyde, which are finally converted into the waste product of ethanol by the addition of protons and electrons. Using this pathway, a cell can make usable high-energy molecules, and the process can repeat. No matter what type of ethanol you consume, it'll be processed into less toxic compounds by enzymes found in your liver, and eventually cleared from your body, unless you overwhelm the capacity of those enzymes, in which case alcohol will remain in your bloodstream and eventually make its way to your brain. This is when you'll begin to feel that particular change in your thoughts, actions, and perceptions. But to understand why that happens, you have to understand a little bit about how your brain works. Your brain is made up of a tangle of branched cells called neurons, and these cells need to communicate with each other in order to pass messages through your nervous system. This is accomplished through chemical messengers called neurotransmitters, which are divided into two classes: excitatory, or information-transmitting signals, and inhibitory, that limit information flow and help organize and differentiate signals in your brain. The main excitatory neurotransmitter is called glutamate, whereas the primary inhibitory one is called GABA. These two classes have contrasting roles and exist in a complex balance leading to thoughts and actions. So how does alcohol affect these two neurotransmitters? Well, it turns out that alcohol suppresses glutamate signaling, leading to less excitation, meaning less information flow in your brain. This reduction will eventually only let large-scale signals through, which means that you'll begin to notice less and remember less, feel less and perceive less than you would normally. Now, at the same time, alcohol has the exact opposite effect on GABA signaling, increasing inhibitory signals, which reduces the overall background stimulation in your brain. This actually fine-tunes and clarifies your thoughts, but to an extremely excessive extent. So with these skewed levels of neurotransmitters, You begin to think very little, but with sharp focus, resulting in a drunk person that's thinking very, very clearly about virtually nothing. But what about all those other nasty side effects that come along with drinking alcohol? When I throw back a shot of whiskey or tequila, why does it burn? And why does alcohol make me have to use the bathroom more than I normally do? And what about that awful hangover the next day? Well, there are biological reasons for all this happening in your body when you drink. If you consume hard alcohol or highly concentrated ethanol, it interacts with a membrane receptor protein on your cells. Now, this protein normally functions as a thermoreceptor, helping to detect and regulate your body temperature. But it also works as a pain receptor, providing you with the sensation of burning heat as it responds to certain chemical compounds, just like those found in foods and products that we consider to be spicy or hot. Typically, these receptors respond to temperatures above 43 degrees, but when they interact with alcohol, they become more sensitive than usual, being triggered by temperatures around 34 degrees, which is lower than body temperature. Now, all of a sudden, your own body temperature in your throat feels like it's burning you. So it's not actually the alcohol that's hot, it's really just your own body temperature that now feels hot. And while we're talking about temperature, it's also worth mentioning that alcohol doesn't keep you warm. Actually, the opposite is true. Even though it makes you feel warm, it's really making you colder. And the reason is because alcohol dilates your blood vessels and brings blood to the surface of your skin. So this is why drunk people sometimes get flushed or turn red and feel like they're warmer than they actually are. So as blood comes to your skin's surface, it contacts the air and rapidly dissipates, which really makes you colder, even if you don't quite feel that right at that inebriated moment. So what about all those bathroom trips? You might think it's a simple equation of liquid in and urine out, and sure, that's part of it, but there's definitely more. So alcohol not only messes with your brain function, but also interrupts your endocrine system as well, in particular your pituitary gland. This is a versatile gland that secretes a number of hormones, one of which is called Vasopressin, or ADH, Antidiuretic hormone. This hormone usually tells your kidneys to hang on to water in your body, and so you'll urinate less. But ethanol decreases the production of ADH, and so your body begins to let go of water in your system. So the more you drink, the more water your body loses. But why do we care about this? Well, as you keep drinking and losing water, you'll eventually become dehydrated. And this means get ready for a bad day tomorrow. Hangovers are mainly due to dehydration and water loss from your body due to excessive alcohol ingestion. So during your whole drinking event, as your body was losing water, it began stealing it from your organs, like your brain. That makes it shrink just slightly and pull away from your skull, and gives you that really, really bad headache that you're probably going to have all day. And unfortunately, none of those folk remedies that you've heard of are going to help you at this point. All it's going to take is some water to rehydrate and time. Or maybe not drinking so much in the first place. So whether in the form of beer, wine, or distilled spirits, people throughout history have enjoyed the intoxicating effects of alcohol. And it's quite possible that alcohol literally could have changed the world, helping to lay the foundations of many ancient and modern societies. To some, the history of civilization is the history of fermentation. And even though our bodies are evolutionarily equipped to handle small amounts of ethanol, remember that having too much at once can really throw off your internal chemistry. So like anything else in life, indulge in moderation. And remember, science bonds us.